set, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast channel, March 14th edition. And we've got coaching updates for both WVU basketball and WVU football to discuss. We'll lead off with the WVU football coaching topic that just came up recently following another staff shakeup that I don't think we were really expecting and was kind of surprising, as one of the fan favorite coaches is departing the WVU football staff. So we'll lead off with that momentarily. But then we've got some more updates coming from spring practice, as Rich Rod's met with the media twice, had a chance to sit down and watch both those press conferences, gather some notes from both of those. So we'll talk about some of his updates from the spring. And then, of course, wide receivers coach Ryan Garrett meeting with the media for the first time. We'll get an update on the wide receivers, talk about that here. That'll be the front part of the show. And then towards the back half of the show, we can talk about the aforementioned coaching status on the basketball side, because I know there's been a lot of talk about Darian DeVries for a while, potentially being up for some other jobs. We'll talk about if I think either one of those jobs maybe have legs, either one of those rumors have legs as far as what could potentially happen with Darian DeVries. And then now with West Virginia losing there in the Big 12 tournament, their first game to, upset-minded Colorado, we got to talk a bit about the tournament status for West Virginia. They were kind of considered a lock, but if, things fall a certain way, they may be sweating it out on Selection Sunday, and we'll talk about if I think that they are still in or not, and take a look at some of the bracketologies from around the country and see what they're saying in regards to the Mountaineers tournament status. So that's kind of what's on the docket. Lead it off with the football stuff and then talk about the basketball stuff on the back half of the show there. But I appreciate everyone tuning into this one, whether you're watching live, of course, on our YouTube, on Facebook or Twitch. If you're on Facebook or Twitch watching, got to encourage you to come over to the YouTube channel where you can get access to the pre-recorded videos, the podcasts, all that good stuff. You can stay up to date on everything happening around the Mountaineer football program. And if you are watching this on YouTube, whether you're watching this live or after the fact on a playback, you can help us out just by hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube. It helps a ton with that algorithm. And like I said, subscribe here to the channel if you haven't already. If you didn't get a chance to chat live, throw your thoughts in the comments. If you are in here live, any questions, comments you got there, throw them in the chat. I'll try and catch up on some of those throughout the stream as well. But other than that, guys, let's get into it. Let's lead it off with the coach departing on the football side. Unfortunately, Blaine Stewart, like we said, kind of unexpected that he would be leaving the staff, but understandable with another NFL job coming open. It's a place that he has experience. He's coached at the pro level before, and a lot of people didn't realize he was actually taking a pay cut to return to WVU this time, but it was great to have Blaine Stewart on the staff while he was at WVU. Hate to see him go, but definitely wish him the best of success moving forward, because who knows where his coaching career could take him. He could very well follow those country roads back home and end up at WVU again one day, but obviously a hard decision for him, and he put out a really heartfelt statement on social media that I wanted to read through here, so that's what we'll do here now in regards to Blaine Stewart, who's taken an offensive quality control job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what he's moving on to here, and that's why he's departing WVU. But from Blaine Stewart himself here on social media, he put this out. I swore I would never be a graphic or notes app guy, but it wouldn't feel right without expressing my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to come home for the last 2 years and some change. This place and this program has meant the world to me. It's not just where I've grown as a coach, but where I've grown as a person. It's where my roots run deepest and where my family's legacy is forever intertwined with the fabric of this university. To coach at a place where my dad gave his all for his home state also, I carry that family tradition with pride. It is a place that will always be home to me, and leaving it is a sacrifice I do not take for granted. I want to thank Coach Neil Brown and his staff for bringing me to Morgantown in 2023. It was a dream come true that went by faster than I could have imagined. Also want to thank Coach Rich Rodriguez and his staff for giving me an opportunity to continue being a part of this program. I learned so much over the last few months that I will take with me forever as a coach and person. I cannot wait to follow the success coming to Morgantown. Thank you to the players for allowing me to grow with you daily. It was a pleasure to watch young men strive to achieve their goals at such a pivotal time in their lives. The relationships, the memories, and the sense of community I've experienced here will stay with me for the rest of my life. Though I am excited for the next chapter of my career, this decision is filled with a sense of gratitude for everything this state and this program has given me, and my family and I will be forever grateful to have been a part of it. Thank you to the fans for their unwavering support throughout my time in Morgantown. I look forward to continuing to represent this program in the future and wish all of you nothing but success moving forward. This chapter may be closing, but my connection to this place and the people here will never end. Said Blaine Stewart with a very great heartfelt message there that he put out on social media and shared some pictures, of course, him with the tight end room that he led really great, last year and of course the year before that as well. But there he is, and there's him and Pat McAfee. So Blaine Stewart takes the offensive quality control job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He moves on, which of course then leads to wonder, how will West Virginia fill that role? There was some speculation, would they just allow Michael Nicewander, the tight ends coach, to coach inside receivers as well? Would Ryan Garrett kind of oversee that? And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the press conferences. But just for Rich Rod's take on it, for now, Travis Trickett is kind of filling in that void. He's kind of a floating coach, Rich Rod called him. When they didn't have the running backs coach while they were out looking for one, Travis Trickett was kind of working with the running backs. Now Travis Trickett's going to be working with the inside receivers for the time being, so he's kind of all over the position groups on the offense, has his hand in a little bit of everything. But Rich Rod mentioned that they're really going after probably a guy that's a really good recruiter is kind of what they're targeting, and they will actually add another coach to replace the void that's left there with Blaine Stewart's departure. And he said hopefully within the next week or so be doing some interviews. Hopefully within short order we'll have more news on who's going to join the West Virginia staff, and we can finally kind of solidify that thing now that we're removing Blaine Stewart from the staff. But nonetheless, I think that we'll replace him with a really good recruiter and another really good coach, because every time this staff has had to do that thus far, they've really swung for the fences and hit the ball out of the park most of the time, most recently with Larry Porter coming on as running backs coach. So we'll see what happens here moving on. But that's what I had there on the Blaine Stewart side of things. I wanted to talk about his departure, what I think would happen moving forward. And then I want to transition now into talking a little bit about the press conferences, both Rich Rod's and Ryan Garrett's, as they shared some updates. But before we get to that, let me catch up on some comments, see some people hopping in here live right now. Okay. Trey Edwards says, how we doing, boys? Hate to see him go, but I'm happy for him. I would have taken the job, too. Doing good, Trey. Good to see you in here. And if you want to be like Trey Edwards, have that nice WVU football helmet badge beside your name, get access to custom emojis, almost having monthly hangout streams. Then in the season, you can get film reviews, game rewatches, player grades, snap counts, injury reports, depth chart projections, behind-the-scenes content, all that good stuff. You can become a channel member here by clicking the join button below or on the YouTube channel homepage as well. Helps keep this mic recording and that camera rolling, and we always appreciate our channel members like Trey there, and can never thank you guys enough, the catalyst for keeping this all going here. But definitely, I would have loved to had Blaine Stewart around for another year as well, Trey, but this is one of those things that's kind of bittersweet, because you hate to see him go, but you do wish him to continue, his coaching path and continue to move up the ranks. So, when he has a chance to go to the NFL, probably make himself a little bit more money. Can't blame him too much for his departure, but hate to see him leave for sure. Drumwolf62 says, let's go Mountaineers. What's going on, Drumwolf? Always good to see you in here, brother. Seen you even comment on my video on my JCCFB page. I hope you saw my response yesterday as well after your comment on there. But yeah, you guys were starting to get college football 26 news. So if you don't already, check out my college football video game page there, JCCFB, where I cover college football 25 and soon to be college football 26 as news is rolling out there on that as well. Appreciate you, Drum Wolf. Let's go, Mountaineers indeed. I got my boy JR in here. What's going on, JR? Good to see you as well. Drumwolf62 says $100 says WVU will not be ranked in the beginning of the football season. I guarantee it. I guarantee we won't, Drumwolf. That'd be $100. You would definitely win. Not going to be in the preseason rankings, but hey, I'd love to see us pop in there at some point in the season. Getting in that AP poll in Rich Rod's first year would be huge after Neil Brown wasn't able to get in the AP ranking in 6 years. Got ranked once in the coaches poll, but never made it into the AP ranking. So it would be awesome to see Rich Rod do that. Even year number one. So speaking of Rich Rod, got some notes from his most recent press conferences from yesterday and the day prior. Want to go through those, but before that, how about another awesome job from the WVU media team, something I think we were all looking forward to maybe seeing happen, and that's getting Rich Rod mic'd up. And we did get that, so let's share that awesome video from practice here and get a little bit of insight and look at Rich Rod running practice.
This is going to be a wonderful experience. It's getting kind of tight, coaches. You better let them out here a little earlier. Stay off the ground today. Let's get better. Keep going. Keep going. Chemo, you got to keep going. Got a free play. Attaboy. See what I mean?
You can't be serious.
He did.
Can we do it again, Coach?
No, Coach, I ain't. Nope. You weren't even thinking. Why would they stop before the whistle? And why would you stop before the whistle? Because you know why? Because they're too lazy to take 2 more steps. Make a move. Catch, shoulder roll, reset, throw. Why? Seam! There you go, Cam! He's going to do it right. It's going to be a perfect route by the Z. No. I'm going to go ready to go yell at somebody. Good to see you guys. I'll see you too. Hang around. Good to see you afterwards, baby. Let's go! Throw it! I know. You throwing the seam. Yeah. Good fake, good fake, good fake, good fake. Burst! Like a fist. You see what I'm saying? Not just like a fist. I'm just going to a spot. Yeah, then he'll throw you open. Does that make sense? Vertical tie. Great catch! Oh, gosh. Get to the Y. Because that corner can squat. You see what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Just go ahead and run it. Blow the horn. Everything in your life is meant for you to be an individual. Success is best shared. So when we have success, these are the people you're going to share with. And you'll never forget it. Everybody follow me? Let's get a break right here. Let's go.
So a lot of good stuff there that'll get you excited. As Drumwolf says in the chat here, that's hard edge, baby. Hey, that's right. You can see a little bit of that hard edge in action there from Coach Rod and see him coaching up the different position groups, talking to multiple quarterbacks there, Jalen Henderson in the video, Scotty Fox, Nico there towards the end, and of course, coaching up the receivers as well at one point, and even Charles Wesley Godwin was at practice. He said, hey, I got to go yell at somebody. I'll talk to y'all after. You love that mentality. Good to see us get back to it. As Trey Edwards says, love to see this. It was the way I was coached, and it's the way I coach too. We will be feared again. Absolutely, that's right. We'll be feared again. Yeah, Nico's a big guy, Drumwolf, as he says Nico's bigger than I thought he was. Yeah, 100%, man. He's like 6'3", 230, I think, or 6'2", 230. He's always kind of reminded me of like a Tim Tebow-style build, and that's who I think his running style is kind of like. Not a burner, but he will run you over and has really good size. So yeah, Nico is a pretty good size there. As Trey says, him at full speed would be like trying to hit a truck. Indeed. And quarterback continues to be the one position that it seems like the coaching staff is really confident in already, to the point that they are thinking that they probably won't have to add any more transfers at that position, which we'll talk about here. Now that we get into talking a little bit about the press conferences, let's talk about Rich Rod's most couple meetings with the media. West Virginia had practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He met with the media after both of those. I took some notes from each of those press conferences. The Mountaineers now going on break, and then they'll come back, have 2 more weeks of spring practice, and then that's it. Already almost halfway done. We'll have the spring showcase coming up in less than a month now on April 5th. So let's talk about Rich Rod's press conference from Wednesday first. Some notes from it. Began being asked by offensive line, and he stated the offensive line's still not ready, trying to be patient with them because not a lot of those guys have played a lot. He even was joking with, I think it was Greg Hunter, as Greg Hunter said, you got some returners, and he said, who, can you name them? And Greg named, 3 or 4 guys. He said, yeah, but none of those have really played, and for the most part, they haven't, save for Lane and Livingston seeing, some brief action last year, and then talked about the newer offensive linemen being pretty athletic. He named, Tyke East, Chemo, Robbie, but said they haven't played a ton either. So, they feel the offensive line is still a concern right now, which I think is something that a lot of us have agreed on. I've seen some people mention it in comments on videos. We've talked about it in previous streams. So I think offensive line is certainly an area they'll be targeting following the spring to bring some more guys in to add some competition to that room. They have some guys that are already coming in that haven't made it to campus yet that'll be here over the summer, but I think in the portal window, we'll see them target some more there. Speaking of that portal window, I said, Rich Rod said they're not taking another quarterback in the portal, and I put an asterisk beside this one because he said they're open to adding at every other position. So it seems like there's a lot of competition that they want to add in all of the rooms, save for quarterback, because they're kind of not pleased with what they have. It sounds like in a lot of position groups, which is something that's been kind of a consistent theme throughout the spring. But, Rich Rod talked about that, saying, every spring that he's had, he's never walked away from a spring pleased because it's just so early into your season. You don't even have, what's going to be your finalized roster yet. It can change a whole lot between the spring and the time you get to fall camp. So springs are always frustrating. So he says it's nothing new in that manner, but I think that the good side of that is how confident they feel about quarterback, which is obviously one of the most important positions. They're going to not be targeting any other quarterbacks in the portal. I'm asked about defensive line. He said that there is, that's one of the positions where they do have a little bit of experience. He mentioned Hammond Russell and Asani Redwood. And then, of course, Eddie V, but Eddie V has been limited still in the spring, not a full participant quite yet. I also asked about the pass rushers. He said Jamori Robinson's currently the past week or so been a little bit limited, but before that he was really showing some flashes as we kind of expected. One of the best pass rushers, if not the best, that was available in the portal at the time, so high hopes for him. And then Braden Siders, I think we were talking last stream about how I had high hopes for him as a pass rusher. He has performed well as well, according to Coach Rod. And then the last couple things I have notes on here from the Wednesday press conference is his main talk was about situational awareness, was something he really highlighted a lot. Said he really tries to overemphasize situational awareness because he feels like the lack of situational awareness across all of college football that he sees is just so persistent and consistent, and it's one of his pet peeves that he can't stand, so they're really trying to preach that. And it sounded like on Wednesday they were having a kind of a bad day situational awareness-wise. And then lastly, he was asked about kind of aggressiveness on fourth down, how it seems like the game's kind of transition to being, fourth down being more of an offensive down, especially once you kind of cross midfield. And he said, if I ever punt inside the opponent's 40-yard line, check my pulse. So seems like we'll be pretty aggressive once we cross midfield, and definitely if we get inside the opponent's 40-yard line. So those are the comments that I took note of there from his Wednesday press conference. We'll shift to Thursday now, where he met with the media, and then we got a nice wide receiver update from wide receivers coach Ryan Garrett. We'll talk about that as well. But as far as Coach Rod is concerned, from Thursday's presser, he mentioned, the break coming up, then 2 weeks left of spring practice. Proud of the work they've put in, but a lot left to do and a lot left to be desired still yet, as we talked about the spring being a little bit, frustrating at times. Mentioned, of course, we talked about the coaching status now with Blaine Stewart's departure, how Travis Trickett's going to currently be handling the inside receivers until they get someone else in there. He's going to start interviewing people over the next week or so, but really what they're looking for is kind of the best available recruiter as the main factor of who they hire to fill that void on the coaching staff. Feels like wide receiver coach Ryan Garrett, who we'll talk about here momentarily, has a really bright future. He says the biggest thing that he'll be working on over the break, as far as what Coach Rod's going to be doing, is going to be getting with the GM and coming up with a plan to have the best possible 105 players on that roster when they have to cut that down in fall camp. And yet again, he kind of talked about lamenting that 105 player roster limit and really hates it because after spring, he said they're going to have to cut guys that they don't want to cut. And guys that they would love to have on this team are going to have to, unfortunately, be cut following spring practice. And we've talked about that time and time again. And hate that is the case, but also think that they're going to really make a great plan to be able to have the best 105-player roster possible once fall camp rolls around, which is the goal that you're going to have with the new roster limits that start this season. Said on Thursday, Jaheim White practiced for the first time and could be full go after break, but, yet again said that he's proven they know what they have with him, what type of player he can be. So as much as, myself, you guys know Jaheim White being my favorite player, and we've talked about on the streams in the past, and a lot of the fans were kind of salivating at the prospects of Jaheim White in a Rich Rod offense. I think Rich Rod has seen Jaheim White's game and knows how good he can be in this system, as well as time and time again, besides the quarterback position. And despite the fact that Jaheim White hasn't even been practicing, Jaheim White has been one that Rich Rod has gone back to, saying that is, probably the lone player that he's referenced as being proven, a guy that they know what they have. As this team has a ton of new players already. I think 59 new players was the number that we had from CBS Sports a couple of streams ago that we talked about. But Jaheim White, the one returner that they feel really good about, and glad to see that he's back practicing and should be full go after the break as well. Talking about the receiver, which is a position that we're going to talk about more throughout the rest of this football portion of the stream here at the front half, as we'll talk about Ryan Garrett's comments momentarily. But as we've talked about it throughout previous streams here, it's an area where they feel like they're really thin on bodies and want to add some pieces over the summer and, of course, in the next portal window. Particularly, it sounds like at the outside receiver positions is where they feel a little bit light. Rich Rod said he feels confidence in the slot positions, the two inside receiver positions that we have on the roster, but wants more competition with the outside receivers, called those two outside receiver spots wide open. But he did mention Jaden Bray and Cam Vaughn having good springs. And then it was asked about Cam Vaughn because he was a guy, and we've talked about this in the past, was a high school quarterback and never played receiver, and was asked, did you know that he was going to be a receiver, even though he was kind of maybe being recruited as a quarterback? Rich Rod said he knew all along that Cam Vaughn was going to be a receiver, didn't believe that he ever actually repped as a quarterback once he got to Jack State. But that just shows, how good Cam Vaughn can be, that, redshirted 1 year there and then was the team's leading receiver, had more receiving yards in his 1 year playing receiver at the college level than any receiver had in our 6-year tenure here with Neil Brown. So, as a redshirt freshman, Cam Vaughn has already done that, and he called Cam Vaughn one of the best athletes on the team. And then the last thing he stated from Thursday's practice is that they did improve, situationally from Wednesday, which of course we talked about wasn't good at all on situational awareness there on Wednesday. So good to see they at least improved in that category for the next day. So let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers, do an update here courtesy of Ryan Garrett, because that'll kind of wrap us up on football. Then I'll catch up on some of your all's comments, and we'll switch topics, talk a little bit about basketball and the upcoming NCAA tournament, if West Virginia's status is still good to go, and it looks like they're still going to be in there. And then, of course, Coach DeVries, we've got some things to talk about in regards to his status at WVU, if he will return or not. But let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers and wide receiver coach Ryan Garrett. Here's some notes from his press conference from yesterday. He feels like he has a good group of wide receivers. Feels like the primary thing they're trying to identify right now is who are the best players for what position, of course, across the 4 receiver positions, the 2 outside and 2 inside receiver positions that this scheme will utilize. And one thing that they're stressing for these receivers is that the quickest way for them to get on the field is if they could learn all 4 of those wide receiver positions, then they really have a lot better chance because they're a little bit more versatile and can get in on any one of the positions there. He says with the tempo, the one thing that this scheme is unique about is that the X receiver and the Z receiver, which are your 2 outside receivers there, they won't swap sides of the field as they progress down the field. Helps them be able to move faster with the tempo and such, but also then what that does is it kind of changes the makeup of the position in a way, because as they progress down the field, they're going no huddle, but the ball may be moving from right hash to left hash, and so the X receiver may become the Z receiver at times because they're not going to swap sides of the field, or vice versa, depending on what side is your wide side of the field, what side is your boundary side of the field at any given moment as you progress down the field. So that's what makes this scheme unique, is the fact that the X and Z wide receivers kind of being interchangeable as they progress down the offense, utilizing the tempo that they do. That's just one strategy that helps them be a little bit faster on the offense, which this offense is going to move extremely fast. That's why they want wide receivers in this offense to be in better shape than anyone else in the country. It's very important. He emphasized that a couple of times throughout his press conference. He was asked about Rodney Gallagher, stated he's been impressed with Rodney Gallagher's ball skills. He thinks he's a guy that they expect to maybe be playing all 4 of those receiver spots, as we talked about there, and if he's able to do so, could be seeing a lot of Rodney Gallagher on the field this season. Also mentioned Jaden Bray has done a phenomenal job busting his tail since this new staff came in. You can tell he really works hard and feels like what he does fits what they do pretty well, and he has a good skill set. And then Cam Vaughn, Of course, the one that I was most excited about in the transfer portal as far as receiver pickups was one I was really hoping that we brought in, and you guys have heard me sing his praises over the offseason months here. But Cam Vaughn knows the offense, of course, having been at Jack State, and he called him a dynamic athlete that really is explosive with a super high ceiling because of the speed that he possesses, but if he can add the size as well, that he still has 3 more years to add, he has a super high ceiling. So Cam Vaughn, one that we're really looking forward to this season, to seeing him in the gold and blue. And then mentioned Rich Rod being hands-on coach that has his hands in every aspect of the program. And not only does he coach the players, but he coaches the coaches just as hard. And he feels like that's why he's continued to improve as a coach since he's been with Rich Rod. When Rich Rod was at Ole Miss a few years ago, then he was with him at ULM, then Jack State, and now at WVU as well. So both Ryan Garrett in his press conference praised Rich Rod a little bit, and Rich Rod praised Ryan Garrett. So it seems like they were a good fit for each other there. And then looking for their type of player in recruiting versus just the higher rated player. They want, of course, the player that's going to fit this hard edge mentality and do the hard things that they need him to do and be able to, be highly conditioned, I guess we can say, as they want receivers to be in the best shape in the country, and they asked him to do some different things within this scheme. So nice update on the wide receivers there from Ryan Garrett, even mentioning, that trio by name there with Rodney Gallagher, Jaden Bray, and Cam Vaughn here around for the spring. I think he had some good things to say about Preston Fox's experience as well. So nice spring updates there from Coach Rod and Ryan Garrett, the receivers coach. Before we shift gears and talk a little bit of basketball here, I'm going to catch up in some comments. I see Big Dan T coming in here and dropping a bag as well. Always appreciate you, Big Dan T, who's a channel member here and always so kind to us at the CRW with the $9.99 super chat here. So he's happy we start the season lighter this year, as it may take a while to gel. Great point, Big Dan T. Especially with all of the roster turnover thus far. We have, like we said a little bit ago there, 59 new players already, but going hand in hand with that is we have a coach that has experience doing that, but you also can see how it takes some time to adjust. If you look at his Jack State team last season, they had 60 new players, started the year 0-2 or 0-3, and then didn't lose again after that. Lucky for us, as you're talking about there, Big Dan T, we start the year with an FCS team and a group of 5 team for our first couple of games there. So if we do take a few minutes to gel there, those are games that are still winnable despite that. And hopefully we can start the season off better than Jack State did last year despite enduring similar roster turnover. But we also probably were able to bring in a higher quality player here, higher quality transfer, higher quality freshmen that are going to help us here with our roster rebuild. But having a coach that just went through that and still won a conference title excites me. But definitely, good start to the season. I like the way our schedule shapes up this year, and starting it the way that we do can help with some of the getting the kinks worked out, I guess we could say, early on with a lot of this new roster. But I always appreciate you, Big Dan T. I can never thank you enough there. See if we can catch up on some of these other comments here. I'm going to take a swig of my coffee real quick. Drumwolf62 said he got chills there from the video that the media team shared. Yeah, gotta love Rich Rod mic'd up. We'll give you chills, and we'll get you even more excited about the season there, as Drumwolf states. Hey, Golden Blue Goggles, good to see you in here, man. I haven't seen you in here in a live stream in a bit. Good to see you in live on another one. Always love that screen name. As you guys know, we always put the golden blue glasses on here at the CRW when we try and always keep things optimistic for sure. Eric Flower says, I think we will overperform. With all the new kids everywhere, no one will expect us to do much, but we got the coach and the kids that want to be here. Exactly. And they're not scared by, of pissing anyone off either. I think they've shown that in Rich Rod's press conferences here throughout the spring. He's trying to motivate the guys and say, hey, your spot's not guaranteed no matter who you are, it seems like. And they don't care if people don't want to be here. That's fine, because they want the guys that are going to fit this hard edge culture, that want to be coached hard, that want to play hard, and, want to go out and win some football games. And I think that there's a good chance that we do overperform because of that. And that's, if there's one thing Rich Rod's consistently done in his coaching career, it's overperform more often than not. So like that prediction as well, Eric. Always appreciate you, man. Trey Edwards says, I think there's more hype for this season than the beginning of last season. Yeah, and if you look back at the beginning of last season, there was a hype built up there as well. I think there is going to be a lot of hype for this team, but also kind of with an asterisk beside of it, because a lot of people know completely new staff, completely new roster essentially, so they're going to give a nice long leash to this staff, I feel like, and I don't think they're going to be all over them after a loss or two, or at least I hope not. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, but the excitement is definitely going to be there from the beginning, and I hope that it has a good turnout in the spring showcase, which go claim your ticket if you haven't yet. They're free. No reason for us not to pack out the place for the start of the Rich Rod 2.0 era for sure. Looking forward to the night games. They should be awesome atmospheres indeed, Drum Wolf. Especially Pitt. If it's not a night game, it's got to be. It's got to be. Too much hype around it, Trey Edwards. It's got to be a night game for that one for sure. Redemption game. That's right, Drum Wolf. And it's on 9/13/25. That's poetic justice, with that being Rich Rod's first chance to play Pitt again back at WVU, being on 9/13 and being in Morgantown. Poetic justice indeed, for sure. I think a lot of people are going to be in attendance at that one, as I see multiple of you guys say it. And don't worry, Trey Edwards, channel member, says ESP will be loud. He'll get some videos. Hey, that's right. The Eat Shit Pit chants will ring out through that stadium on 9/13 indeed, and can't wait to hear it. I'm sure we'll get a little Sweet Caroline action even. But that's what I had for football. Now we can shift gears, guys, and for the last portion here of the stream, talk a little basketball. We got multiple things to talk about. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way to initially begin with. We'll talk about the tournament status after that, but I think one of the big topics going around right now, and it's one that I haven't really touched on a ton in the past, because every time you guys have brought it up, or I've seen it brought up, or people have asked me questions about it in the chat, it's Darian DeVries' status at WVU, because I felt very confident that he wasn't going to leave for Indiana or Iowa at the time. I think that Indiana is looking like they're kind of honing their search elsewhere. Maybe Ben McCollum, I think, was the name that I heard brought up there, that they're kind of honing in on potentially. But the Iowa rumors are not going away, and there was a basketball insider that put out a statement on his Discord, which was shared on social media, which I'll share here with you guys, that kind of ignited this fire once again and maybe gave this thing a little bit more legs than we had previously believed. So let's take a look here at this. From Trilly Donovan, who, if you don't know, is a well-known basketball insider that tweets out a lot of things on social media, a lot of news before it becomes news, and he's pretty much well in the know there. But here's what he has to say. So did some background work on DeVries in Iowa today. From talking to people who know him well, I think there's legitimate interest on his end. He finished second to Fran last time the job was open, and has apparently always coveted the job. So not what we want to hear as Mountaineer fans, right? But there's a couple dominoes that still have to fall. Fran McCaffrey has to retire or be fired. One of those two is expected to happen in the coming days. Once that happens, then that's when we will probably be on high alert as Mountaineer fans. Now, something to keep in mind here, he is from Iowa, so, going home is always something to keep an eye on. But also, could this interest be leaking out because it's trying to help sweeten DeVries into an extension here at WVU? There's been reports that, that extension offer is on the table for him, so maybe this is to help sweeten that deal, and WVU will pay him a little bit more even to keep him around. I hope that they do, break out the checkbook as much as they possibly can if they do end up getting into a battle here with, the Iowa job. But I still feel more confident that Darian DeVries will be WVU's coach next season than Iowa's. But this does give me some cause for concern when it's coming from someone like Trilly Donovan, and it seems like there's a little bit more smoke to this fire now of DeVries potentially having interest in the Iowa job, and Iowa certainly having interest in Darian DeVries. But with the job he's done, guys, we're going to see Darian DeVries' name come up for potential college basketball openings. Let's just hope that West Virginia can get him to sign an extension before he does leave elsewhere. One thing about Darian DeVries that gives me pause on, him leaving for Iowa is the fact that he's stayed at all his other jobs for a long time. I think that if you're looking at it, yes, he'd be going back home, but wouldn't you rather have Tucker return to a place that he's been at for a year and not have to go through another year, rebuild if it's going to be his final season? Maybe that'll factor in as well. But personally, I think that there is something to keep an eye on now about this with Darian DeVries in the Iowa job. I'll say that much. But like I said, if you're asking me to put a percentage on it, I still think it's probably 65 to 70% chance he returns to WVU versus him departing. But if the Iowa job comes open, it's definitely something to keep an eye on here for us as Mountaineer fans. Let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that we can bring Darian DeVries back into Morgantown. But let's talk worst case scenario. If indeed the Iowa job comes open, the talks become real, he ends up departing, I don't think that we can have any hard feelings. I know it seems like a coach Plitzowite on the women's side situation from a couple of years ago as well. If you could say they're using somebody for just a year and then moving on to a job that they really highly covet. But it's hard not to say go home, guys. If it was Rich Rod that went to Jack State, I know he was there for multiple years, but if he was there for a year and then came to us, we'd be super excited just like we were this year. You could look at other coaches that are from West Virginia that we'd love to have come home. And, going home is always home. So that we got to keep that in mind. But the silver lining there that I would point to if West Virginia did have to endure another coaching search is not Darian DeVries, but Ren Baker has proven to be really good at hiring coaches and especially has a great track record of hiring basketball coaches. Look at Ben McCollum, who was a guy that Darian DeVries hired at the job he was at previously. Or not Darian DeVries, I keep saying Darian DeVries. Ren Baker hired Ben McCollum at the job he was at previously at Northwest Missouri State or wherever it was, and that guy won all kinds of natties. Now gets hired by Drake, is having great success there, and now maybe even shooting up to the Indiana job already. And that's a guy that Ren Baker kind of put him on that track. Of course, Darian DeVries having the great year he had this year. You can look back through Ren Baker's history and find more names. So that's one thing that I would hate to see Darian DeVries go. West Virginia has a ton of potential. The ceiling is the limit with him. The sky is the limit with him at WVU, I think, moving forward, and I hope that he stays. But if he doesn't, I think Ren Baker would do an awesome job finding another coach that would be another home run hire for the Mountaineers. But we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll keep you up to date on it as more news comes out about it here on the CRW. We'll let you know. But for now, just, a rumor to watch is Darian DeVries and Iowa kind of heating up slightly, but personally I still feel like there's a greater chance he returns to WVU than leaves, in my opinion. So that's what we had to talk about as far as the status of Darian DeVries. Now we need to talk a little bit about West Virginia's tournament status. And it's kind of a little bit more in question. West Virginia may be sweating it out a little bit more now than they were previously. Because of the loss to Colorado and the possibility of there being some bid stealers. Of course, if some teams that are unexpected to win conference tournaments come out and win conference tournaments and sneak into the big dance. But as far as some of the bracketologies, as far as Joe Lenardi's is concerned, this was updated, I think, earlier today. I believe it was updated this morning. Just at noon. He'll update it again probably later tonight after some of the games. But for now, West Virginia still where they want to be, their last 4 byes, which, means they're not even down to the last 4 in line yet, but their last 4 byes. So, this is where West Virginia wants to see themselves in either one of these 2 sections, and we're in the tournament. As long as we can stay out of these 2, we're doing all right. And I believe he has us as a 10 seed currently. He does have us as a 10 seed facing Missouri, where we'd play in Cleveland as far as Joe Lenardi's bracketology is concerned. But let's look through this article from Skylar Callahan that talks a little about West Virginia possibly sweating it out. And then we will take a look at some other bracketologies. But I believe pretty much all of them still have West Virginia in the tournament as it stands now. So don't think we're sweating too much yet. We just have to worry about the bid stealers, as Skylar will point out here. As he talks about in his article here, West Virginia could have gone into Selection Sunday with zero concern if they were able to handle Colorado in the second round of the Big 12 tournament, but after losing to the Buffs, it's created some uncertainty. While they are still likely in, they could be left out if chaos takes place over the next few days. Bid stealers are West Virginia's biggest issue. If there are a boatload of them, it's going to make the situation a little bit more murky. For those who may not follow as closely, bid stealers are teams that weren't projected to make the NCAA tournament, but punched their ticket by winning their conference championship, thus receiving an automatic bid. For example, if Wichita State or Tulsa were to win the American Conference, they would steal a bid from someone away from someone on the bubble. The only way that they go dancing is by winning that conference tournament. There will typically only be 1 or 2 bid stealers every year, and if that's what plays out this year over the next 48 to 72 hours, West Virginia should be fine. The resume is going to be hard to top with 3 top 10 wins, and more importantly, 6 quad 1 wins. All but 2 teams on Joe Lenardi's bubble on ESPN have fewer quad 1 wins than West Virginia. Ohio State also has 6, but they did lose early, get upset, so they're, I think, kind of out of the picture right now. Texas is the only other team that has more with 7, and they're winning some games in the SEC tournament. We would like to have Texas lose to feel a little bit better about ourselves, but as we saw there, Lenardi firmly has West Virginia in, and let's take a look at some of the others here as well. Before we wrap up, then I will catch up on your all's comments one more time. So you guys got any other questions, comments there that are live in chat, throw them in there. We'll take a look at them after we look at these bracketologies here. From On3, They have West Virginia currently in the East region here, where they would be playing in Providence against Michigan. They have West Virginia as an 11 seed now, which that's one thing, if there is a silver lining to losing in the Big 12 tournament, as bad as I hate to lose, it is the fact that West Virginia is going to end up as a 10 or 11 seed now in the tournament, which I prefer either of those seeds versus the dreaded 8-9 seed, because in that 8-9 seed, not only is that one of the tougher matchups usually, but also then you have to play the number 1 seed right away in the very next round. West Virginia can avoid the 1 seed now as a 10 seed or 11 seed, most likely, which is a good thing. So West Virginia projected as an 11 seed by on 3 here, playing Michigan and Providence. And then CBS, their bracketology here, we'll show you it. And they have the Mountaineers also as an 11 seed, but they have them playing Memphis in Denver. So going out west here in this one here from CBS. But there's 3 that solidly have West Virginia in the tournament. And if we look at Bracket Matrix, which compiles a lot of the bracketologies, and kind of where they have teams seated, and you can see here they use ESPN, CBS, and many others here, including on 3 that we just looked at, and then a ton more to compile kind of the status here. And as you see, West Virginia is most likely to be an 11 seed, according to Bracket Matrix here. Good chance for the Mountaineers to be an 11 seed. So looking like a 10 or 11 seed, but the positive thing that we need to focus on is the fact that West Virginia is still solidly in the tournament in all of these bracketologies. So despite the fact of them, kind of moving down in seed, they still seem to be solidly in despite an early loss in the Big 12 tournament. So as long as there's no huge surprises in any of these conference tournaments that result in way too many bid stealers, we're still feeling pretty confident about the Mountaineers' tourney status. So for our basketball updates here on the back end, I think at this point, keep your eyes open for DeVries in Iowa, but I still feel good about him being West Virginia's coach next year. That's my personal take. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again, and I also still feel confident about West Virginia being in the NCAA tournament, although that status can be up in the air a little bit now. I still think the Mountaineers are going dancing, and we'll see where they land on Selection Sunday. But we'll keep you up to date on any of that changes, the coaching news, the tournament status news, any of that. We'll be back in a future live stream to talk more spring football updates and anything else that happens here on the basketball side. I'll catch up on y'all's comments real quick one more time, and then we will call it a stream here and let you guys get back to watching some of these conference tournament action today. Hey, let's call Ken Kendrick to throw a bag. Trey Edwards says, hey, we may need it. We may need it if Iowa does come calling. We may need to drop a bag and keep DeVries in town for sure. Golden Blue Goggle says, I can't see a benefit of him going to Iowa. Maybe pay is higher, but NIL can't be much better. Plus, starting over again at a new school 2 years in a row, Big 12 has the best basketball conference anyways. Great points as well. And just all other things that kind of had me leaning towards, him returning to WVU more so than departing. Channel member Big Dan T says, Jordan, you were correct. We would have rather played TCU. LOL, that second half was horrible. Yeah, I didn't know if it was recency bias or if just Colorado was playing good at the right time. Turns out Colorado was playing good at the right time as they win, back-to-back Big 12 tournament games. And I think doing it as the lowest seed, I saw it was the first time since like 1931 or something like that had happened, especially with the low amount of conference wins that they had. But yeah, I guess we definitely would have rather played TCU. Big Dan T hated to see that poor performance in the second half. But, the one thing I put out on social media is maybe you get the loss out of the way in the conference tournament and you go get wins now in the big dance. And the other silver lining that I talked about earlier is, hey, I'd rather be a 10 seed or an 11 seed than an 8 or a 9 anyway. So, that's the good thing. Trey Edwards says it's still his dream school, though. Fran McCaffrey just got fired. Uh-oh. CBS Sports just announced it. Okay, so let's pull that up now because the first domino has officially fallen. Guys, now we have to keep our eyes peeled on their search moving forward here. Yep, there it is for multiple sources here. On 3, Yahoo Sports here. It's the first one I see that pulled it up here just 15 minutes ago. Appreciate that, Trey, updating us on that. Let's take a look here. So the first domino has fallen for Iowa, and now who will be on a coaching search, and Darian DeVries' name is going to be mentioned, guys, and we just have to hang tight, hold our water, and hope that West Virginia has a good extension for him and a good plan to hopefully be able to keep him and keep Iowa at bay, as Iowa has now split with Coach Fran McCaffrey after 15 seasons. This just came out a little bit ago. Fran McCaffrey era in Iowa City is over. Hawkeyes are reportedly firing their longtime coach, according to Pete Thamel, which if Pete Thamel reports it, you can consider it good as gold. So what we were expecting to happen, or hoping maybe wouldn't happen if we were WVU fans, was either a retirement from Fran McCaffrey or a firing. Looks like it's the latter there. Iowa has fired Fran McCaffrey, so keep our eyes peeled now. Let's, any updates that come out, if it looks like it's trending one way to him, signing an extension with WVU, or maybe to him departing, we'll come back and do future updates on this as we need to here on the CRW as often as possible. And as soon as we know more, we will continue to update that for sure. But hopefully, he still comes back to WVU. I still feel that's more likely, but maybe now that drops me down to, 60 or 55% returning to WVU now that the Iowa job is officially open. It is something that we do got to be concerned about now, guys, especially since we had the reports that we talked about from Julie Donovan earlier of it definitely being a real thing. So keep your eyes open, and let's have our fingers crossed, hoping for the best that we can get DeVries to return to WVU. But that's pretty much all I had to talk about, guys. Just the coaching updates for both the WVU football side with Blaine Stewart leaving, the rumors around DeVries on the basketball side, and then wanted to touch on the most recent wide receiver updates and updates from Coach Rich Rod in regards to spring practice, and then talk a little bit about the hoops tourney status, which seems like we're still solidly in the big dance. But appreciate you guys that tuned into this one live. If you're watching live, we're on a playback. You can help us out here on YouTube just by hitting that thumbs up button. That helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. Be sure to subscribe here to stay up to date on everything going on throughout the Mountaineer football program, and as well as WVU basketball hoops tourney status and anything going on involved here with the Darian DeVries rumors. We'll keep you up to date on all that here on the Country Roads webcast, so be sure you have us subscribe there so those videos come directly into your feed. If you're watching live on Facebook or Twitch, appreciate you tuning in there, but be sure you come over to the YouTube and subscribe so you can get the pre-recorded videos, the podcast episodes, and maybe even that members-only content. If you can't get enough WVU football content, you can hit the join button, become a channel member, help us keep this mic recording and that camera rolling, and we always appreciate that. Appreciate you guys that tuned in here live. If you didn't get a chance to tune in live, you can throw your thoughts in the comments. Always appreciate those interactions as we continue to try and grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, I'll be back to chat with you guys again soon in the near future. Hope everybody has a great Friday. Until next time, let's go Mountaineers.